Welcome to Wednesday Q&A, where you all ask the questions and we answer. And I'm joined, as always, by my intelligent, gorgeous, charismatic, amazing co-host, physical therapist, lit, senior teacher extraordinaire, Kristin Williams.
All right, so let's be honest. This could be the reason why I do this with you every now. Because, I mean, who doesn't like to hear Lara's descriptives? Like, I look forward to it every week.
I know, right? Everybody should be greeted like that. Look who's coming through the door. It's my amazing, talented daughter. They would be like, what is your problem? Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have got some questions here from my Instagram page. So this person asks, what's the most challenging injury or illness you've had, and how did you get through it?
Ooh, I'll start.
Yeah. Let's see. Got a couple hours now. Just kidding.
I know. Seriously though. Well, real quick, and this is not my answer, but I will say an injury is what got me into physical therapy. So I am forever grateful to pain for steering me the heck out of accounting, where I would have sat at a desk all day long. Oh my gosh, kill me now, right? Kidding, but you know what I mean? Like,
I didn't even know you were thinking about accounting. Oh my goodness.
I started off in accounting. But then I kept getting injured, shin splints, stress fractures, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so thank you, pain. Pain really is our educator. So for me, I would say my biggest injury was a shoulder injury that I sustained, and I still deal with it. And it's scary. Like, so I'm a physical therapist. You guys, everybody knows that. And I'm a manual physical therapist. And so I work on all bodies, and I do adjustments, and I do joint manipulations, and I'm really good with my body mechanics. I really am. I focus on how to make things as easy for me as possible. However, one time I had a long morning of patient after patient after patient, and then one of my fellow PTs asked me to work on his back. He was struggling, and this guy is like 6'3", 260 pounds maybe. And so so I'm working on him, and my body was tired, and I went to do a joint manipulation, and I reached forward. If you watch me on YouTube, I internally rotated my shoulder, protracted, and then this is the position you get into, and then you lean back out of it. Well, he's so big and I wasn't thinking that I lean back, but I pulled with my shoulder, and I felt, and we heard, like he could hear it on the table, a tear in my shoulder. And this was excuse my French, oh shit moment. Like, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a physical therapist, and I just jacked up my shoulder, and that fear of and he looked at me, he goes, oh shit. And I looked at him, I said, oh shit. And he's like, you tore something. I was like, I tore something. And now, what did I do about it? First of all, I didn't panic at all. Inside I had a momentary, but then I was like, wait, it is going to be okay. I obviously stopped what I was doing. It was sore. And I mean, you can call it was painful for several weeks. I never got an MRI because I wanted to see if I could fix this thing without knowing what was wrong. Because while I love MRIs, sometimes that knowledge of what's going on can really affect, again, stress affects pain. And I knew that if I knew what was going on, it would increase my pain. So what did I do? I did not do chaturangas for a while. I really re-examined how I was doing chaturangas, even though I don't think that caused it, but I knew that would inflame it. I dropped to my knees. I did my own physical therapy. I did a lot of rotator cuff work below shoulder level. I took Advil. I really changed a lot of things to keep it from getting aggravated. And then over time, it got better. The body is amazing at healing. So I really believe that, and I've said this before, being a PT has allowed me not to fear pain. So pain is just information. And now sound was a big information. I know something tore. We've heard it. If you tear your Achilles, it sounds like a shotgun. If you tear your ACL, people can hear that too. So it's very scary. It was a scary moment, but I also just, my knowledge, I knew this was a very complex joint. Odds are I tore my labrum or I tore my rotator cuff. I don't know which. But I've got a lot of stuff around there that can compensate and help me stabilize, and my body can heal. It can lay down scar tissue. In fact, in the UK, they almost never repair Achilles tendons. Like, that's unheard of in the US. In the US, you're going to get your tendon repaired. They don't do it, and the outcomes are just as good. So the body is amazing at healing itself. So that knowledge, to this person who's asking, can go a long way to don't fear pain, don't fear injury, take it as information. I have changed the way I practice. I feel like it made me smarter, to where I'll listen to my body better, because that's when you get injured, unless it's like a traumatic, somebody runs into you, or you are skiing and somebody runs into you while you're skiing. I mean, skiing is another thing. People will ski, and they've not done anything for their legs, and they tear an ACL because they're just tired. We need to titrate our exercise. We need to listen to our body fatigue, and give proper rest. But do I still feel it every now and then? I absolutely do. But again, I take that pain as information. All right, Kristin, what are you doing? What are you getting lazy with? And then I snap myself back into gear, and I'm good to go. So far, thank you, shoulder. Give it a kiss.
Yeah.
I'm still teaching and, doing everything I need to do. Lara, what do you have? I know do you have any good stories to share?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had any kind of major injury in a long time, knock on wood, but I did have an injury that was probably one of the most challenging mentally. I was in a boat. My Jonah was just a few months old, and our neighbors had a boat, and we had never gone out in it. They'd ask us every summer. And so they were kind of pressuring, like, hey, gotta go, let's go. And Mark's a water skier. So I wasn't going to go. And they're like, come on, you can bring the baby. And I just had it in my gut. I was like, I don't think I should go. Mainly because I had a 3-month-old. I'm like, I don't think a 3-month-old should be on a motorboat. But I just got a little pressured, and I'm just exhausted. So I just decided to go. And Olivia was a toddler, and Mark had gone skiing. And then they were like, oh, let's let Olivia get in the get on the tube and go around a little bit. And so they were about to put the tube in the water, but then, so they had unhooked the tube. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, it's a big circular thing that you sit on. And then they decided there was some debris in the water, so they were going to move. So I was in the back of the boat. Fortunately, I was the only one in the back. I wasn't holding a baby. My mother-in-law was holding Jonah. Olivia was in the front of the boat. And they started taking off, and it was like 10, 15 miles an hour. Vroom. And because the tube was no longer down, it went flying up in the air. And I remember this is all they say these things that time stops. I remember it was kind of going, whipping around, and I was like, that doesn't look too good. And then it whipped down, and the rope hooked under my leg, and then it went behind, then it went behind, get fast enough. But my leg was caught. So I got pinned between the back of the boat. The rope was digging into my leg. And I remember and she started going faster. And I remember just kind of calmly putting my fingers in between the rope and my calf and saying, you need to stop. You need to stop. You need to stop now. So she did stop. And when I peeled it away, I had a full second, third degree rope burn. And it was all around it was like a snake. It went around my leg, up into my thigh, a little bit on my fingers. And I just remember I'm sure I was in actually a total, what's it called? Shock. I was in shock because I was so just oh, wow, that doesn't look good. And we were like, oh, we need to go back in. And I just was kind of in shock. The healing of that was hard. Burns are really painful. And I had done burn therapy with, and I remember you've got to keep it moist. You got to do all this stuff. And I, because I was also, postnatal, I didn't take the best care of it. Then I had to, what's it called? Debrided on my own. So it was just mentally a good month of feeling like, I can't believe this happened to me. Oh my God. And then having, by the way, what I would now recognize as PTSD of like my leg could have gotten chopped off. That could have gone around my neck. That could have gone around my child's neck. Like all the things that you go through when something happens, it's done. And then you have all these like emotional flashbacks of what could have happened worse. So to me, that was actually one of the hardest, most challenging, because I was just, it was painful. It was unnecessary. Like I kind of knew I didn't want to go there. And then all of a sudden I get this fucking, excuse my French, but this, major rope burn, which by the way, you can barely, I'll show you when we're in Costa. I mean, you can barely see it, but it was like, I thought I was going to have this bit like snake-like tattoo on my leg. And it was just challenging because it was a type of injury that I'm not used to treating. I know what to do with soft tissue. I know if my bone breaks. And this was just, it was like a lot of patience because I would walk and it would get swollen. But it, what I kept coming back to after I got over the initial shock, stress, post-traumatic stress of it, is I kept coming back to inner listen. Like, I don't blame anything, but I had such a feeling I shouldn't have gone on that boat. And it just really, so I guess there's always like a silver lining, like you said, like pay attention, like don't just be pushed into doing something. And, I don't think that happened because it just happened to happen, but it made me think like, I just didn't want to go on that boat and I shouldn't have. And, I pay attention to stuff more and I appreciate, oh my gosh, that could have been worse and it wasn't, and how lucky I am. So I think in the end, it gave me such a deeper appreciation of health and, how your life can change very quickly in the snap of the fingers. Because afterwards I read many people do get their leg actually severed with ropes from boats. So the other thing I have preached about is please be very, very careful on a boat when there's a rope involved, because once you have wind, the rope is really, it just doesn't have any, you lose that kind of like control, and it can wrap around you and it is not good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I like that you pointed out PTSD because that is real. That is real after injury. And so I would highly recommend people who are struggling with chronic pain to see a counselor, to really seek
absolutely,
because it is, pain is traumatic. Injuries are trauma. This is true for having babies can be traumatic for people, so honor that in your body. Like Lara said, it wasn't just the injury, it was what you think about afterwards. You relive it in your head. I see this with a lot of my chronic pain people. That they develop this unhealthy relationship with the pain, and it's trauma.
It is.
So yeah,
and you're right. And really,
topic.
There's something liberating about talking about it to someone. So if people do have some kind of PTSD with pain, with an injury, with something that happened with birth, like you said, like people can have really not the birth they planned. And then they just get so busy taking care of baby. I know at least the baby came out, fine and all this, but they haven't dealt with like what it felt like for them. So please talk to somebody. This is because those emotions, that fear, like all the things that I thought like in my shock state, I was not yet registering. When I got quiet and it was away and I was safe, that's when it came through. And that's what happens a lot when you have these kind of traumatic events, and they can be wonderful events that have some degree of trauma in them, like a birth, that we do need to register. We need to release that and not bury it. Yeah. All right.
Question.
Great
All right.
question.
We got one from one of our lit instructors, Chioe. She has this question. And I'm going to do her second one first because it's got some great photos that I want to share. And we see this a lot. So She says, I have seen many yoga studios and teachers posting in social media photos of doing adjustments to students in classes. For example, a seated forward fold. Of course, we don't do that. Another person lying on the back for whatever reason, and some other adjustments and help when students are holding in poses. My question is, are we supposed to use our body weights on people, or is it safe to even do any kind of these so-called adjustments? And so if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to share my screen because this is arguably horrifying, some of the things that she sends photos of. And so here we are with this person is like in a, what I would call like a really high cobra, and the person is pulling their, you can see her humeral head popping out through her armpits. She's pulling her into hyper shoulder flexion. This one right here, where she's in a straddle forward fold and the yoga teacher is pulling her arms into hyper shoulder extension and drawing them together. This one right here is an assisted, she's in a prayer twisted, what looks like a crescent or a chair, and the person is grabbing at the shoulder and drawing her further into a twist. And then this last one is absolutely terrible. This girl is in a seated forward fold and someone is literally lying on her, forcing her deeper into flexion.
Well, let me jump right in because first
of
all, if you don't know already and you're listening in your car at some point, when you're home, look on our YouTube because you need to see these. The fact that this is happening at all is astounding to me. Like, I cannot even tell you all the wrong there is with that. And especially with those particular things. You're talking about the shoulder, vulnerable joint anyway, and somebody pulling on it that is not you in two of those positions. You're talking about the low back lying on it. And then that other, what was the first one where it was like...
the shoulder also. There was the...
Yeah. It's just...
and the back.
Oh my gosh, the shoulder. Oh my gosh. It's so wrong. Okay. So here are my thoughts, and I think Kristin will agree. We are both physical therapists. And if I can't describe verbally something to a client that they get, I will then have them try that with their own hands. And then if they're okay, I'll say, can I? And it is a facilitation. I am trying to give feedback. It is light. It is like, lift your, this into me, or move your head back. I'm not manipulating, pulling, pushing, using any degree of force to get them in some kind of postural alignment. Because first of all, that isn't serving anybody. They need to do it on their own. And I can give them feedback just like they can give themselves feedback, or the floor can give them feedback. So we definitely help tactile cues, but it is a facilitation. It is not forcing. All of those are examples of forcing. I do not know why that would ever be taught, because at the best, you have somebody who's super tight and they won't feel anything practically, like with the back, with lying on. But that is, so there would be no change. But the women she was working on, you could really overstretch the capsule, the shoulder. You could fracture a rib the way she was trying to make a person rotate thoracically while putting one lever on her bottom leg and the other on the shoulder. I want people to move actively. They figure it out. All right, that is that's a passive, and that's passive aggressive because it's not even passive. Means like you're not actively finding the range. So like I could be, turn my feet out like in a malasana and kind of sit down and hang. So I'm kind of passively getting some external rotation. I've got gravity, but I'm not moving it actively. But passive aggressively is somebody forcing me to get into bigger range. And that is just, it's unethical. It's unethical. Very few PTs I would think would ever do anything like that. Certainly not a yoga teacher. No offense, but like we've been trained how to do small manipulations and small things in particular areas that are like very specific, a segment of the spine or part of the scapula, or, but a person who's trained in yoga who probably doesn't have that shouldn't be putting their hands on the body like that at all. Yeah.
It's next level. I mean, like, I looked at those and I was like, oh, like, we need to share this.
Yeah.
Because yes, you don't know somebody's history. I mean, compression fractures is when a compression fracture can occur in the spine when the body of the vertebra just fails. And that can legit happen if someone is susceptible to it, if they have osteoporosis in their spine. We don't know that. We don't, as a physical therapist, when I am evaluating someone, I get a detailed medical history from them. So I know if they have rheumatoid arthritis where their ligaments are susceptible to, failure, where I know what the condition of their bones is. I know their history. You're in a yoga class. You don't know what people have. And to put yourself at risk. In the U.S., if you would hurt somebody, you would be sued out of house and home if you did something and that hurt somebody. Now, I don't know if that's true all over the world. We have a very litigious society. So yoga teachers don't do this. You are not enhancing anything in the body. People, I don't know why this even became a thing, because I do see it a lot. Not those are extremes, but I will see in pigeon, people come and push down on the pelvis. Come on, man. Like, that's just not okay. You are putting you are really putting their hips highly susceptible. I will see people, get that one where they are pushed forward more into a forward fold. We don't need to go there. I would never do that as a physical therapist. As a physical therapist, we're getting in. These are very graded mobilizations. I can have somebody who comes to me with a knee stuck in a flexion contracture. I'm not going to sit on that knee. There's no way. Even though back in the day we would sort of do that.
Exactly.
We would put them on a thing that would and have a hold them there. We know better. But that, just don't put yourself at risk of really causing someone harm. I cannot say enough. So,
and it further glorifies this whole in range of extension, all of that we don't want people doing actively, quote unquote, which most likely they're not doing actively. They're probably getting into some sinking where they're, but certainly not with somebody else's weight force on them. I mean, I feel like this is where you go when you really want this separation of teacher and student. And we're not about that. I mean, we're in this with you. We have knowledge we want to share. But if I'm doing something to you in that kind of way, I think it does separate. It's like it's like it puts you on some, and that's just bullshit. Like, get rid of this kind of hierarchy, sage on the stage. I know what you should be doing. Because that's what you're saying when you come and manipulate somebody like that. I know better than your own body. And when we talk about PTSD, like, people that are getting adjusted might be having real stress and they're just frozen. They can't respond. Or they might just be like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And they kind of go into the fawn stage, like, I'm just going to accept it. And what we're trying to do is have somebody love and understand their body. And you're inherently communicating that something is not right, and I'm going to make it the right way by doing those things. It's just, there's a lot wrong with it. And so, please don't do that.
It's under the guise of helping. And that is, is, I mean, to me, there's a power play involved.
It is. And
dangerous.
Listen, the teacher who might have been doing this might have been trained that way, and that's what.
Totally.
But this is where we see it in the lit community. People that might have been teaching like that, or even being in that kind of environment, and they were thinking, like, they were critical thinkers. So that's the big thing too. Is if you're a teacher who's doing that, we're not bashing you because you learn from someone, but you need to be a critical thinker, and this is probably not where you want to stay because you're not educating, you're not helping. and you definitely don't want to be hurting somebody. And you're just going to have such more fulfillment when you're actually helping someone discover how to move better, stabilize better, enjoy movement, and not go to these in ranges and push them into that. So, woof, that was scary to look at. I can't believe that still exists, but I know it does. It does. It is. All right, my friend. I guess that's all for today. One more? Okay, let's do one more. Yeah, because we have more to give. So let me pick a short one. Well, how's this? This is going to be impossible to know, which is one thing that you can't live without. Meaning one thing each of us can't live without. Well, we can't say that. There's many things we can't live without. Our children, our partners. So that's a fun question, but not for the... Do you have any? I've got another one. But I love that somebody asked us that.
I would say, yeah, I know. That's a great question. I mean, I can't live without books. Like let's think about not people, not like the loved ones. Yeah, I'm the same. I agree. I can go without my TV. I can go without movies. I cannot go without books. I love to read.
I'm going to be a copycat. I would say books, but the animals are part. So let's say non-living, like innate objects, because obviously we would have our family and our animals and all that stuff. But yes, I agree. Books, absolutely. Because I remember my mom said to me, she's almost 81, and she said, some of my friends say they're bored. She goes, I could never be bored. I'm never going to have enough time to read all the books I want to read. And she has like piles of magazines. Like she reads The New Yorker and National Geographic, and she's always getting behind. And so, yeah, I think that's so true. Like, how could you ever get bored? There's so much to read. We'll never get to be able to read it all. It's all fun.
And it's such an escape. Yeah, I love it. I have such admiration for authors who are so creative, and they come up with these storylines, and I will be like laughing out loud reading things. They make me feel ways, that I just don't get. I don't get that same in on TV. Some things will, but I got a book.
I think you go. It's almost like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. You go in. You know what I mean? You go into the adventure. Versus like when you're seeing something on TV, it's like entertaining you, but you don't necessarily go in it. It's like a passive thing. And this is, you go in it. I like that.
Yeah.
I think that was a great question. That was it. We had just to define that we couldn't forsake our children or our husbands or our friends. Like, yes, but
friends, yes. But I think
books, books. And for me, I know KB is not coffee. Like, I don't know. I have said before, there was an 18-month time period where I went without coffee thinking, let me just see if because I didn't like the idea of being addicted to something.
Yeah.
And then I just had a revelation. I'm like, I'm just happier with coffee in my life. Like, I just am a happier person with it. So what was I thinking?
Why not?
Yeah, why not? So books and coffee. There we go.
That's awesome.
All right, everybody. We love your questions. See, no questions off the table. And we're just giving you our opinions. We like to stay open-minded, but we do have some strong opinions about things because, I think we've earned it. We're older. We've been in it. But yeah, so ask us anything and we'll give you our opinions on it. And we love hearing your questions. So find me, ask me on Instagram, direct message me at lara.hyman or KB at kbwilliams99.
You can also send us email if you're not an Instagrammer to support@lityoga.com. We will put them in our little file folder and get to them as soon as we can. And you can always make them anonymous. So if you don't want your name, you've got something that is maybe more personal to you, that is fine too. Just let us know. And don't forget to rate and review on whatever your listening platform is, because that just helps us out.
That means a lot. Thank you. We love you. And as always, we're pulling for you. You.